Hello everyone. Today I am going to introduce a very important concept in vector analysis, the concept of cross products. And this video is going to be very interesting because I am not going to take the route of standard textbooks to define cross product, because in standard textbook the definition and the introduction of cross product is pretty simple, and it's a three-line job. Define it with the help of sine theta and the n cap, that is the perpendicular vector. Now give the thumb rule to find out the direction of perpendicular vector n cap, and define the determinant way of computing the cross product. Now those are all okay, but this kind of introduction lacks the motivation that why would we ever want to do these weird kind of calculations and weird kind of determinants to compute cross products, and what are these things good for and why these things. So in this video I am going to introduce cross product in such a way so that you get a logic, you get a certain logic that yes, this is the reason why I am introducing cross products. Okay, so let's get started with introduction of cross products. Before we start cross products, we will give a brief uh, introduction to dot product. Not introduction, it's going to be a definition of dot product. And if you do not know about dot product, you can see a video about dot product. The link is given in the description below. So let's start. So let's say we will introduce dot product. So dot product. Now say we have two vectors, a vector and b vector, and we can write them as components of x-axis, y-axis and z-axis, and b is also written as b1 I cap, b2 j cap and b3 k cap. The algebraic definition of a dot b is just summation ai bi with running index I, which is nothing but a1 b1 plus a2 b2 plus a3 b3. Now geometrically dot product is defined in this way. Say we have two vectors, this is my a vector and this is my b vector, and they are making an angle theta with it. So a dot b is defined as magnitude of a vector, magnitude of b vector multiplied by cos theta. Now we have shown in the previous video that how this definition is linked with this definition. Now through dot product, what we do is we relate between lengths, these are lengths, and angle. So using dot products, we have related lengths and angles. Now we would like to find out area. Let's say we want to find the area of a pentagon. Let's name this A, B, C, D, E. Can we find the area of the pentagon using vectors? Yes, we can. But to simplify the problem, let's first break this pentagon into three triangles. So finding the area of this pentagon boils down to finding area of triangles. Not only in case of pentagon, but also in case of any polygon with any number of sides, the finding the area of the polygon basically boils down to finding the area of triangles and then adding them. So we will concentrate on finding the area of a triangle. Let's start then. Say we want to find the area of a triangle. Let's make a triangle first. So this is my triangle. OAB is my triangle. OA is my A vector and OB is my B vector here. And the angle between A and B vector is theta. To find the area of the triangle, let's first draw a perpendicular from B to OA. This is 90 degree. Now, from the formula of area of triangle, we can write down that the area is half into base into the height is B sine theta. Now, this looks something like dot product except for a sine theta. In dot product, we got cos theta. Now, how to deal with it? Well, there is a trick. Let's first compute dot product of the two vectors. A dot B is mod A mod B cos theta. From this definition, we can find out cos theta, and then using the relation sine square theta plus cos square theta equal to 1, we can find out sine theta, and that will do the job, and we can find out the area of the triangle only using the concept of dot product. But there is a more sophisticated way, and now I am going to show you the more sophisticated way. So what we are going to do is we are going to find out some angle whose cosine is equal to sine of the angle theta. So let's say we want to find an angle, let's say cos theta prime, which is equal to sine theta. Then we can write this A vector B vector cos sine theta as A vector B vector, this magnitude of A into magnitude of B into cos theta prime. Well, how to do that? Let's see. What I will do is I will rotate this A vector. I will rotate this A vector by 90 degree. And make another vector A prime. So what I have done is I have only rotated A vector by 90 degree. I have not changed its magnitude. Then if this A prime vector is making angle theta prime with B vector, then theta prime is 90 degree minus theta. So cos of theta prime will be sine theta, and I have not changed the magnitude of A. I have only rotated it by 90 degree. So magnitude of A is equal to magnitude of A prime. So what I can write is A vector multiplied by B vector sine theta is nothing but A prime vector, magnitude of A prime vector, because magnitude of A prime and magnitude of A are same, multiplied by B multiplied by cos theta. So this is nothing but dot product of A prime with B vector. So this is exactly what we can do to find the area. So if two vectors are given, A vector and B vector, and we have to find the area of the triangle constructed by these two vectors, what we have to do, we have to rotate one vector through 90 degree and construct a new vector and take dot product of another vector with that new vector. That will give us the area of the triangle. It is looking like a complicated process, but please stay with me. This will make sense. So first, let's learn how to find or how to construct a vector 90 degree rotated from a given vector. So let's do that first. Say I have two vectors, a vector and b vector. A vector is a1 I cap plus a2 j cap. So here we are sticking to two-dimensional plane. We will not talk about three-dimensional plane right now. We will go into it later. So we will stick to two-dimensional vectors, not three-dimensional vectors. And in this section that I will talk about, I am only talking about two-dimensional vectors. So let's say A is a1 I cap, a2 j cap, and b vector is b1 I cap plus b2 j cap. Now I have to construct a prime. Now how do I construct that? Let's first do some geometry. Say this is my coordinate axis, y axis and x axis. Let's say this is my a vector. If this is a vector, then this distance is a1 and this distance is a2. Now what have I done is I have rotated the vector 90 degree. This is 90 degree. Now if we look closely, this distance is a1 and this distance is a2. So we can write a2 vector as, we can write a prime vector as minus a2 I cap, because I have to go towards negative x-axis to find a2, to cover a2 distance this time, plus a1 j cap. So this a prime is perpendicular to a vector. Now we can find the area. Actually, area we are finding a prime dot b, which is nothing but minus a2 I cap plus a1 j cap dot b1 I cap plus b2 j cap. So this is equal to a1 b2 minus a2 b1, and this can be written as determinant of a1 a2 and b1 b2. Okay, well, let's define it like this also. Determinant of a vector and b vector. Determinant of a vector and b vector is nothing but determinant of a matrix where the first row is the components of A and the second row is the component of B. So this quantity, the determinant quantity, this measures the area of the parallelogram with sides A vector and B vector. And to find the area of the triangle, we just have to multiply it with half. Now, to be on the safe side, I will say the area, area of the parallelogram is plus minus determinant of A vector and B vector, because the magnitude of the area is a number and the magnitude of area is positive, but this determinant has no reason to be positive or negative. That's why I have written plus minus. Now this is only limited to 2 dimension because I have taken 2-dimensional vectors, not 3-dimensional vectors. This is because of simplicity of calculation. Now let's come to 3 dimensions and see what happens. So let's come to 3-dimensional space. Well, we talked about angles, we talked about length, and here we talked about area. Now in 3 dimensions, apart from angles and length, we can find out 2 things. We can find out area of surfaces and we can find out volumes of solids. First, I will talk about volume of solids, and from that we will come to area of surfaces, where the concept of cross product will be logical. And taking this route, you can understand how cross product is coming into play and defining area of surfaces. Just like this determinant in 2 dimension measures the area of the parallelogram, the determinant of A vector, B vector and C vector defines the volume of parallelepiped with sides A vector, B vector and C vector. Our A vector is now a vector in 3-dimensional space. So A is A1 I cap, A2 j cap, A3 k cap. B vector is B1 I cap, B2 j cap and B3 k cap, and my C vector is C1 I cap plus C2 j cap plus C3 k cap. So these are my A, B and C vectors. Now I have defined the volume of the parallelogram with the determinant of A, B and C. Let's write this down. Let's write this determinant explicitly. So this is A1, A2, A3, B1, B2, B3, C1, C2, C3. Okay. So this determinant is nothing but the volume of the parallelepiped with sides A, B and C. Now, how do I know that? Let's take this. If we expand it from A, we will take this determinant and we will write down A1 multiplied by B2C3 minus B3C2. If you see the individual term, this is coming to be in length cube. So this must represent volume. So that is why I am saying that this is the volume of the parallelepiped. Now let's expand this. If we expand this, we can write it as A1 multiplied by determinant of B2 B3 C2 C3 minus A2 determinant of B1 B3 C1 C3 plus A3 determinant of B1 B2 and C1 C2. So this is how we have expanded the determinant. Now let's try to draw and visualize the area of the volume of the parallelepiped. So let's draw the parallelepiped. So this is my parallelepiped, B vector, C vector and A vector. So this is my parallelepiped with sides, sorry, this is not vector, this A vector, B vector and C vector. Now this determinant is the volume. Now let's try to compute volume in a different way. Let's draw a perpendicular from this point onto the plane, onto this plane, and let A make an angle theta, and now we can say that the volume of the parallelepiped is equal to area vector of the surface multiplied by height. So this is area vector of the surface multiplied by height. Height is nothing but A cos theta. Now we are getting the definition of dot product. So this is going to be area vector of surface dot A vector. Now this is where things gets interesting. So if I can find this area vector which dotted with A will give me this determinant, then I have found out the area vector constructed by B and C, the area of the parallelogram constructed by B and C. Let's try that. So let's do one thing. So this is equal to, if I write the expanded determinant, this expanded determinant like this, A1 I cap plus A2 j cap plus A3 k cap dot this area vector. Now I can write this expanded determinant like this. Please follow this. B2 B3 C2 C3 I cap multiplied by this minus j cap multiplied by B1 B3 C1 C3 B1 B2 and C1 C2. See, this dot product is going to give me this expanded determinant. So what we have done is we have constructed this thing, area vector of the base, and the area vector of the base is nothing but the area of the parallelogram constructed by vector B and vector C, this area we are talking about. So this is the area of this parallelogram constructed with B and C. So let's write this. Area vector of the parallelogram with sides B and C is equal to this thing, I cap B2 B3 C2 C3 minus j cap B1 B3 C1 C3 plus k cap B1 B2 C1 C2. This is the area vector. Now as we expanded this determinant, into this thing, we can do the reverse process and make it the determinant again. So here we are going to do the reverse process. So this thing can be written as I cap j cap, k cap, b1, b2, b3, c1, c2, c3. This is the area vector of the parallelogram with sides b and c. This is exactly the cross product. This is b1 cross, sorry, this is b vector cross c vector. So b vector cross c vector is defined in this way. So this is the definition of b cross c, and this b cross c represents the area of the parallelogram with sides b and c. Now you know why. Why should we say that area is b cross c, and why should we define b cross c by this determinant? I hope this is clear. Why we are defining b cross c in such a weird determinant. And in many sense, this is not actually a determinant, because the determinant maps to a real number, but this is not, this determinant will not give me a number, but this will give me a vector. So this determinant is not actually a determinant in some sense. It is just a way of representing this formula of b cross c. Now let's relate it to the sine theta thing. So we saw for 2 dimension we could write, for 2D we wrote this thing, for 2D we wrote magnitude of A, magnitude of B times sine theta is this determinant A1, A2, B1, B2. So using the same analogy, what we will write is this. We would write B cross C is mod B mod C times sine theta. But mod B mod C sine theta is just a number. It has no direction, so we will put this. So we will claim magnitude of B cross C is magnitude of B magnitude of C sine theta from this analogy we derived earlier. Now up to this is fine. Now what about the direction of B cross C? Because B cross C, when expanded, will give me another vector. So vector will have a direction. So what about direction of B cross C? Well, algebraically, the direction of B cross C is pretty simple. If you have components and you can calculate B cross C, then you will write the direction of B cross C just like this, B cross C divided by mod of B cross C. But let's understand it geometrically. Now I claim that the direction of B cross C is perpendicular to both B vector and C vector. This is my claim. I have not proved it, but claimed it. So now I have to verify it. Let's verify. To verify that B cross C is indeed perpendicular to B vector and C vector, we will use the definition of dot product. So if B vector is perpendicular to B cross C, then this relation must hold. B dot B cross C must be equal to 0, because B vector and B cross C vectors are perpendicular. Let's check that whether this is 0 or not. Now what I have to do? I have to dot B with B cross C. Okay, now this is going to be a tedious calculation. Please be with me. I am writing down B1 I cap, B2 J, B3 K dot the B cross C please refer to the previous portion of the video to write this down. B2 B3 C2 C3 minus J B1 B3 C1 C3 plus K B1 B2 C1 C2. Now let's do the calculation. This is B1 multiplied by B2 B3 C2 C3 minus B2 multiplied by B1 B3 C1 C3 and B3 multiplied by B1 B2 C1 C2. Now if we expand the determinant and multiply it, then we are going to find B1 B2 C3. I am doing a step jump, you can verify it by your own, minus B1 C2 B3 minus B2 B1 C3 plus B2 B3 C1 plus B3 B1 C2 minus B3 B2 C1. Let's now cancel out B1 B2 C3. This is, where is B1 B2 C3? B1 B2 C3, this cancels out. Okay, B1 C2 B3, B1 C2 B3, this cancels out with this thing, and B2 B3 C1 cancels out with this thing, and we have exactly 0. So we have proved that this is 0, which implies B vector is perpendicular to B cross C. Now what about C vector? This I will leave to you to prove. Calculate in the same way C dot B cross C, and this is also going to come 0. Now we are going to give that formal definition of cross product, that B cross C is defined as magnitude of B magnitude of C multiplied by sine theta into n cap, where n cap is an unit vector perpendicular to both B vector and C vector. I suppose that now when you are seeing this definition, it is making sense why B cross C is written in this way, isn't it? Now let's come to the thumb rule. Well, if we say this is my B vector and this is my C vector, and we do cross product and we say that this n cap is perpendicular to both B and C, then we have two perpendicular directions actually. One is this direction above the plane containing B cap and C, B vector and C vector, and another is this direction. So which direction are we going to take? For this we use right hand thumb rule, and this right hand thumb rule is more of a conventional technique than a logical technique, because this is more or less accepted. So to find the direction of B cross C, you point your fingers towards B vector, okay, and you try to curl your finger towards C, and the direction of your thumb will give you the direction of B cross C vector. So if you want to find the direction of B cross C, you have to put your right hand and you have to align the right hand fingers towards B, try to coil it towards C, and the direction of your thumb will give the direction of B cross C. So this is our right hand thumb rule. Now after right hand thumb rule, we will discuss only one property of the cross product. We showed that dot product is symmetric, that is B dot C is equal to C dot B, right? But cross product is not symmetric. Cross product is something we call antisymmetric. That means B cross C is minus of C cross B. So this is antisymmetric. This is antisymmetric. Now, why cross product is antisymmetric? We have discussed a lot of insights into cross product, and this antisymmetry is not very hard to pinpoint. So we will take two logics. First logic is right hand thumb rule. Right hand thumb rule. So if you do this B cross C, the right hand thumb rule says it will point towards the up direction of this surface. So if we do C cross B, it is obviously going to point in the downwards direction. So that's why we can write B cross C is minus C cross B. This is one way of looking into it. Another way of looking into it is use the properties of determinant. Properties of determinant. So we know that we can write B cross C like this: I, J, K, B1, B2, B3, C1, C2, C3, which can be written like this: minus of I, J, K, C1, C2, C3, B1, B2, B3. This minus sign is due to the property of determinant, that if we interchange two rows of a determinant, there comes a minus sign. So this is nothing but minus of C vector cross B vector. So this is something we have shown using the properties of determinant. Now let's take an intuitive look into the direction, the right hand rule. Say I have a coordinate system. Start coordinate system. This is my x axis, this is my y axis, and this is my z axis. And unit vectors along x, y, and z are I cap, j cap, and k cap respectively. Now what is I cross j? I cross j is nothing but magnitude of I, magnitude of j into sine 90 multiplied by n cap. Now here n cap is a direction which is perpendicular to I and j, and what is that unit vector? That is nothing but k cap. So this is equal to k cap. So I cross j is k. Now what about j cap cross k cap? This is I cap. Now from this we can see that k cap dot j cap is minus I cap, and here also j cap cross, this is cross, k cap cross, j cap cross I cap is also minus k cap. Now to do this, there is a nice and simple trick. We draw I, j, and k and draw arrows like this. Now if any cross product is performed clockwise, then it's positive, and if it's performed anti-clockwise, it's negative. So I cross j is k. Okay, so because I cross j is k, now j cross I is minus k because we are going in anti-clockwise direction, and rest of the things will be the same, that just like j cross k is I, but k cross j is minus I, and so on. So this is where I will stop the introduction, and after this what we can do is we can take various vectors and do cross products with using determinants, and you will find the exercises in any standard textbook and go through one of the exercises, and I think if you complete one exercise you will be confident enough to compute cross products. The aim of the video was to provide you introduction to cross product, where you should logically understand the necessity of the cross product and the construction of cross product. Why is it constructed and such an artificial way? I hope that this video has given you insights, and thank you for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe to the Zeta Edu channel. Thank you.